Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another one of our vodcasts, as I like to call them. We've already done a couple of our old franchise wars, and we brought another one out.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
I love the franchise wars. I do. I think they're great.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Um,
them as well.
yeah,
I feel
like
like we
we,
might need to mix up the pictures we put on the front page.
yeah, that
This
was sort of like
last time.
our calling. It's the one I've used for every single one.
Oh, I've clearly not paid attention to the front page
But
then.
yeah, but it also keeps everyone guessing as to what it'll be. They'll say,
This is
they've
true.
already done Lord of the Rings, they've already done Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars has been, what could it be? And it's none of the
And
ones on the
it's none
screen.
of the other ones I was going to say.
It is none of them. We've gone for two franchises which go pretty much hand in hand, I'd say.
Yeah, I think they're both good franchises, to be fair.
They are. So, our war today is James Bond versus Jason Bourne.
Oh my god! All right, these franchises are my kind of films.
This is your thing that you'll get into.
It's
And I love these as well. I think they're
exactly,
brilliant.
yeah. I
I'm
love
just
action
looking at
films.
the
So.
picture I've put on for James Bond now, and it's like Daniel Craig fine, Roger Moore fine, Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby, all that good. But look at the Sean Connery.
Yeah, that is a really bad one of him.
I
It's
mean,
not even him.
it's like Megamind dressed up as Sean Connery. His forehead is huge in that.
It's just not his face. It's weird. It
It looks like
doesn't
a
look
badly
like.
made waxwork. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
I don't know
I
what's
agree.
happened there because the rest of them look like they're actors.
This guy just looks like fake.
Like, poor Sean. And like the Pierce Brosnan one looks almost like a bit of a Poundland version of, a
I
thrift
think that's
store
because
version of Pierce Brosnan.
yeah, I think the image they put on it is slightly they shrunk him too much
Yeah,
and put
it's
in the
just weird.
background. It just looks a bit odd.
They've also made him look
Yeah,
short compared to the others.
yeah, yeah.
So I
I
bet
like
he'd be
Pierce Brosnan.
delighted with that.
I'll follow him
I
on
like him
Instagram
too.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah, cool dude. And then we've
he is
got
a cool dude.
Jason Bourne, who pretty much reimagined this sort of genre of movie.
Yeah, didn't the first one come around when Casino Royale came out? And they started competing. I think when Daniel Craig became James Bond,
No, I
James Bond
remember.
was basically competing with Bourne Identity or Bourne series.
So Casino Royale came out in 2006,
Yep.
and
I think the first Bourne came out just a year or two before
the
that.
first Bourne was the Bourne Identity. Yes, the Bourne Identity was the first film.
Yep.
And let me just look at this.
We are so ill prepared.
I know, I should have got this one up. You always ask the questions I'm not ready for.
We should really plan this a bit more.
Yeah. The second one
I know
was...
they were around the same time.
Yeah. Oops, I've gone for the
Are you
novel there,
struggling
the
there? Do you want me
film.
to help you out?
Oh, that's the wrong...
2002. Bourne Identity came out 2002.
Yes, thank you. 2002. You literally said that as I found out. So
Yeah,
yes, it came out
stupid.
4 years before Casino Royale,
Yeah.
and it pretty much changed the way people would look at Bond. Because it went
Yeah.
from Pierce Brosnan with Die Another Day, where it was over the top. It was, let's say, dodgy CGI.
Pierce Brosnan was the last, what I would call the sort of traditional Bonds, with all the sleazy jokes and the gadgets and all the stuff that, to be
I
honest,
do
makes
love...
it fun.
That was the sort of like... That's what you went for. Like, you loved the back and forth with Q. You
Yeah,
always wanted to see what the cool new gadget was, because some of them were pretty
yeah,
incredible. It's
yeah.
like, I remember with the gadgets in Thunderball, we're going right the way back now. In
This is
Thunderball,
old, yeah,
that's the Sean Connery. I think that was his fourth one.
yeah.
And one of the gadgets was this little metal tube he put in his mouth, and it meant he could breathe underwater.
I love that thing, and I
And
think
then,
actually someone in Japan's designed it, haven't they?
well, what I was going to say is the SAS, the like British version of the Marines, actually approached the producers of James Bond and asked about the technology, and they had
And
to
asked if it was
say,
real.
yeah, well, they basically asked them to hand over that technology to them, and they went, actually, he was just holding his breath. That's what he was actually doing. Like, the gadget's not real.
Poor old SAS.
But that was the thing; they made it so believable in the movies.
It was just fun. It was just a fun film to watch, and there's lots of things going on.
So
And I
it's
think that was one
funny.
of the biggest criticisms of Daniel Craig films, is that it kind of lost that sort of Bondness of it.
They tried to
Although
make
he
it
brought,
more realistic, didn't they? That's what they
well, they
said.
tried
They
to make
said
it
it's
more
going to be the
edgy and a bit
realistic.
more actiony.
and
and then
it
less,
really
a
did
little bit less
follow
jokey.
The Bourne template. And I've got to be honest, Casino Royale is an excellent Bond movie.
It is. I think that it
It's
might be Daniel Craig's best Bond movie.
I'd say definitely his best. I
Yeah.
do think it's better than Skyfall.
I
Um,
enjoyed Skyfall. The one I didn't was the one after that. Spectre, in my opinion, was.
See, Quantum of Solace I thought was the weakest.
I agree. Quantum of Solace was also weak, but I think Spectre was weaker. And the
Well,
reason why I say that is because they had what's his name? Austrian guy.
um, yes, the one who played Blofeld, Christoph Waltz.
Right. Christopher Waltz is an amazing actor, and they completely underused him and his character. They didn't take full advantage of it and made it
They
weird.
did, but at least they left it for him to come back and be a repeat villain. So it was more the surprise we've brought him back sort of thing. And then I
Yeah,
think
I
it
just
gave him
think
scope to be better in a later one.
they could have done so much with that, and they just, in my opinion, messed it up.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I preferred Spectre to Skyfall.
No, no, you're wrong.
Because I felt like Spectre was more like a traditional Bond where he went from country to country and he had his gadgets and there was different set pieces. Like there was the action scene with Batista on the train,
Yeah,
and then he was in Blofeld's complex and it was the classic Bond escape. There was the bit on the
yeah.
snowy
You
mountains,
had the lair, but you
and
had the
then it
lair
ended up back
in
in London.
yeah, but you had the lair in Skyfall as well
Yeah, but it
on
was
an island, and you had the snow thing as well. Actually,
so with
I think you're misremembering Skyfall, in my opinion. I
with
think you
Skyfall, it was
you quite
less
it.
about going country to country. It was very UK centric.
Mm,
Like, yes, he spent a tiny bit of time in China, and
Macau,
then
yeah.
like 10 minutes on this nondescript island that could have been
That
anywhere.
island exists. That island exists. It's off the coast of Japan, I think, or something.
Yeah, well, either way, it's just some random island, and then the rest of it is just like this is the UK. And I get that for what it was, because obviously it was the anniversary Bond, and they had
And
to do this, that, and the other
they
around
brought back
it.
the car. They brought back the Aston Martin, the original.
Yeah, just to blow it up.
Yeah, but I think it comes back in the next one actually, if the trailers are correct. The
Does
one
that?
that they finished filming just been delayed due to world events.
Yeah, I felt Skyfall there was a bit too much patting itself on the back.
I agree, but it came after the criticisms that they'd lost the Bondness,
Hmm.
so they deliberately tried to make it a bit more.
Well, it's one of those things, like, for me personally, like, Spectre had that great opening set piece in New Orleans, which I really
That bit,
enjoyed.
yeah. Wait, Spectre or Mexico? You mean?
Well,
The
was it
rooftops of
it
Mexico,
was the
isn't it?
Day of the Dead thing.
Yeah, that's not New Orleans. That's Mexico.
Oh, I thought they'd done it in New Orleans.
No, 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 no.
Well,
Mexico.
either way, whichever one, it's a great set piece to begin the
It is.
film.
It is. I agree. The opening was excellent.
And then the fight with Batista on the train reminded me of the classic train fight from Russia with Love.
Yes, true,
So
true.
I
They
like
did.
that homage. I liked that
Yeah,
Blofeld was in it, even though, yeah, Blofeld could have been done better. I didn't like the whole him and James Bond were like adopted brothers. That was a bit unnecessary.
yeah. I also think that was unnecessary. I agree. I think they just could have just done away with that.
Yeah. And
Because now they've
they
got to run
just,
with it. That's the problem. They have to run with that.
yeah. But instead of talking about franchises here, we've suddenly descended into a Skyfall Spectre. But anyway, back to Casino Royale.
I blame
Casino
you,
Royale
frankly.
was excellent. Like, you talk about the free run in beginning to it, which that chase scene was great. It's got the classic casino and the cards, and it's all about him developing into Bond. And then there's
Yeah,
the bit where he just goes no holds barred, and he's vengeful at the end, and he's in Venice, and I think that's great.
yeah. And
And
that car
then
scene where they flipped the Aston, that was done in one take.
I know
That
I
was
don't
that
think they
was
had that many
incredible.
Astons to spare.
Well, no, they get quite a few, but they actually did that all in one take, and he actually did land on his wheels when they did it, which is pretty
It's
cool.
excellent. So I really enjoyed that. It's different
Who's your
because
favorite
when we
Bond? I think that's the real question here.
now there's a question.
I know who mine is.
See, I'm tempted to say Timothy Dalton.
Oh, Get Out.
But here's the thing, he doesn't get the credit he's due because he only did two. But he did
I
two very good, very solid movies, and I thought he
they
was great in both of them.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that. He did do a good job on the two, but I don't think he was as likable as, say, Pierce Brosnan was, who's my favorite.
Problem with Pierce Brosnan,
His GoldenEye was golden. Pardon the
GoldenEye was
pun.
brilliant. GoldenEye is in the mix for when you talk about best Bond movie ever. I think there's
Yeah.
a solid 3 or 4 you come back to. Like, obviously, you've got to talk about Goldfinger, and you talk about
Yes.
GoldenEye,
Yes.
and you talk about
Yes.
Casino Royale.
Yes.
I
And
think that's
yes.
fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think
then,
Roger Moore's films are a little bit forgotten, but he also did a very good job.
well, I think he's more for the kids, I'd say. Like, he was my favorite when I was a kid, but he was the very slapstick, jokey Bond out of all of them.
Yeah, his fight scenes were atrocious.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is Roger Moore was older than Sean Connery,
When he took it over,
and
yeah.
it's when you see ones like A View to a Kill, like he was far too old to be doing it at that point, and it
Yeah.
looked silly.
Yeah. No, I
And
agree with you.
that's the Christopher Walken and Grace Jones one,
Yeah.
which is actually not a bad movie, but Bond is just a bit of a joke because Roger Moore's just too old for it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And that's
Um,
when Timothy Dalton did such a good job because he came in, he was young, he shook things up.
yeah.
And License to Kill, which was the only 15 rated Bond movie,
That's a weird
uh,
fact to know.
and well, that's the one that it went that bit further. Because remember the bad guy who hid the lizard? What was his name?
Bad guy with the lizard.
Yeah, he was the bad guy
Oh,
in
well,
License to Kill.
yeah, I know what you mean. The
He had
lizard
like
had
a
little like
gecko.
Yeah, no, he had a iguana and he had a
Yeah,
chain
that's
around
it.
it. I know who you mean. Yeah, I don't know
And
who he is,
there's
but
a
yeah.
bit where he's like he basically domestically abuses his girlfriend. He treats her like his property, but he full on like whips her on her back and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that was
And
weird as well.
Felix Leiter, he gets half eaten by a shark.
Yeah, it was
And
quite dark
there's
actually.
yeah. And then he ends the film by setting the bad guy on fire.
Of course, why
Like
wouldn't he?
literally lights him up with that lighter next to the petrol tanker. It's like, it goes in hard. But I
Yeah,
guess we
no, he
should
wasn't.
start
Yeah.
talking about Bourne as well. Because if we're going to talk about going in hard, Bourne went in.
There's one strange thing with the Bourne thing. Um, there's one film in the series where what's the actor's name?
Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, he plays in it and not Matt Damon.
Yes, and they try and explain it away. And it was basically Matt Damon was done with it, wasn't he?
No, but Matt Damon came back after that. There was one more after that.
Well, he did come back to it again. And it
But to
was
be fair,
funny. Go on.
that film was good with Rayner in it. That was a good Bourne film.
It was. I mean, it needed to be trimmed. There was a lot of fat to be trimmed off that film. There
Yes.
was big, boring parts to it. I reckon if that movie was 40 minutes shorter, it could have been a real banger.
Yeah. No, I'll give you
Uh,
that.
and I think it suffered from the lack of Damon. Because here's the thing with Bond, they can just transition from Bond to Bond to Bond, and people accept it and they run with it and they're happy with it. Whereas I
Mm.
think the Bourne franchise suffered when it
I
wasn't
think
Matt Damon.
I think the problem with the Bourne is that the storyline is a lot more rigid compared to the Bond. With Bond, you can remake the stories or alter them, and it doesn't really
Yeah, and
matter.
you
But
can
with
go
the
back in
Bourne,
his timeline, and
the
you
original
can.
trilogy had a very strict sort of storyline to it that they
Yeah,
couldn't really break out that easily from.
no, it definitely did. And didn't they overlap the second and third for a bit?
Yes, especially with the memory thing, looking back, and yeah,
Because
it
it
sort of
doesn't it
did.
turn out there's bits in the oh no, the end of the second, it turns out that it's halfway through the third movie,
Yeah, it picks it
doesn't
up
it?
in the third movie, I think.
No,
Or it comes
it
back.
ends up being halfway through the third movie, the bit where he calls.
I can't quite remember
Because
now
he calls
where it
that, is it Pam
overlaps.
Landy they call her? And he calls her and he's
Yes,
in New
yeah,
York, but that
but that was
doesn't
at the end
actually happen
though,
till at the end of the second, yes.
right? But that's what I'm
But it
saying. So
happens halfway
yeah,
through the third movie and you see it again from a
correct.
different perspective, which
Yes,
I thought
yes,
was very good. That was well
it was
done.
very good. Yeah, yeah. I think the
Um,
production of the Bourne was excellent, and their car chases were amazing.
yeah, they all
Like I
followed the
enjoyed all of
exact
them.
same formula.
Yeah, but somehow they managed to make it different enough so it didn't get boring.
It was they just did it in a different place or with different vehicles or in different like there would always be a car chase of some form
Yeah,
in a city.
a
There would
shooting
always
scene.
be bits where he's struggling from memory loss and he's suddenly remembering something from his past, all of that. There
Yeah.
was always a one-on-one fight with an assassin.
The one in Morocco was excellent, where he beats the guy's face with a book.
And there's always the bit where he's being chased by the police through a city and he's got to escape.
Yeah, a little bit parkourish stuff
So
going
they
on.
always, like, they all followed the same sort of formula.
Yeah, but it was a winning formula. It worked.
Yeah, you just accepted it.
Yeah,
Like, the
but it was,
Bourne movies are one of those where you can sit down and just watch the original three. You can just sit down and watch the original three in a row.
the thing with Bourne as well is they sort of pioneered the whole camera angle following the actual person, so
The
like point of
shaky
view.
cam.
Yeah, it was
Which
kind of like you were within the fight. You weren't watching the fight. You were almost in it.
which actually,
Completely
I'd
changed it.
like to say that I think John Wick then changed that for the better, because rather than all those quick cuts and shaky cam, with John Wick, you could just see all the action unfold.
Did you just bring in a third franchise?
I think I just did.
Shall we stop it before we just go off on a tangent?
But
Yeah,
I would
John Wick
add
aside,
that whilst I really enjoyed the action scenes in the Bourne movies, the shaky cam does annoy me a bit.
I think over long periods of time it can get annoying, but if they use it sparingly and where necessary, it's excellent.
I think if you're really trying to follow the choreography of the fight, that's when it gets frustrating.
Yeah, I think they need to intersperse it with like zoomed out shots so you can see the two fighting and then back in where then you're within it. It was a bit of video gaming actually at some points, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's strange to think. I don't think they ever really did a proper PlayStation Xbox game for it, did they?
No, they did with GoldenEye though. Back on
The old Nintendo 64.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, yes. And there was some good spin-off Bond games as well. Because there was one for the PlayStation 2, and it was James Bond. I can't remember the name of it, but it wasn't one of the movies. It was its own thing.
Oh, I think I
And it
remember.
was
I think I remember.
excellent. It was like
I
Agent Under
don't.
Fire or something it was called.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but you're right. It was kind of like a spin-off on its own.
And that was
Um,
exceptional. That was really good. And it had a good
yeah,
plot to it, good levels. Oh, that was a really good game. And then
yeah.
they randomly turned From Russia with Love into a video game
No,
for
I
the
don't remember
place
that. To be
for the
fair.
PS2. They brought it out. Sean Connery came back, did the voice, all of that. And it's just
Oh,
out
I
of
do have
all the
some
Bonds to
recollection of that.
suddenly turn into a video game, they chose From Russia with Love. Don't know why.
Sweet. Question:
Go
What's
on.
your favorite scene from both franchises? If you had to pick one scene.
Tough, very tough. Um, I really like the. I might have to list about three. I
Go
think
on.
I think I'll have to say three from each. I
Three from
really
each. All
like
right. Let me get my
possibly.
popcorn.
There's one Bourne one in particular that really sticks out in my head, which I
Go
loved,
on. Go
which
on.
was in the third Bourne movie. Actually, no, the most. Again, I'm going to have to say a few Bourne ones. In the third Bourne movie, he's facing off with that assassin are they in Morocco or Egypt or somewhere? And he's the assassin's chasing after Julius Stiles, and
Yes.
Jason Bourne's running across all these buildings and catching up.
Yeah, trying to
She's
catch
trying to
up
run
with
away
them.
from the assassin. Then he catches up with the assassin, comes crashing through the window, and they have the fist fight in the bathroom. I just
Yeah.
think that's incredible.
So actually, funny enough, mine would match that. It's the bit in the bathroom or in the flat where he grabs the book. I think I mentioned it already and
That's a
uses the
part of
book.
my, yeah,
Yeah.
where he
So
suddenly
that
punches
scene
the
there,
book
where
into his throat.
yeah, I think it's excellent. Just the way
Yeah.
he uses that book as a tool. The other one would be the
Because that was
fight.
another trope I was saying that shows up in every single Bourne movie. There's always he takes a random household object and turns it into a weapon,
So
whether it's a tea towel, a magazine, a biro, like all those things.
I was going to say that the magazine one is it the end of the first one when he goes to that
It's in
house in
this.
Germany, or the second one,
No, the second one is the magazine where he goes to that assassin's house and
and he rolls it up.
yeah.
Yeah, that's also a good scene.
But the other one I was going to say, which gets forgotten about a bit, is the scene where he's on the motorbike in Athens during the riots during the most recent Bourne movie.
Yeah, I actually saw that recently, and you're right.
And then the
That
Julia Stiles gets picked off by the sniper right at the end.
yeah,
That was a really good scene.
yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah, but I think the book scene for me probably takes it just
Just
because
that one moment from that one
just
fight.
that one moment I think just encapsulates the whole thing.
I just thought that was an excellent fight. And the way he ends it by just choking him out with a towel.
Yeah, brutal.
Oh,
Well done.
brilliant. Really well done. Now, with the Bonds, it's difficult because you've
I
got
know my
so
one.
many movies. Go on, you say your one.
All right, so my one is Pierce Brosnan. It's the one where the boat scene chase in London. I can't
Oh,
remember.
from World Is Not Enough.
Yes,
And he goes down like
and
the dome, the Millennium Dome.
yeah, when he has to, where he dives the boat underneath the water, and then
Yeah.
he straightens his tie in a slow-mo shot before he comes back up.
Oh,
That's a
my.
cool scene. That's my favorite.
Mm.
I think again that encapsulates
That's
James
not what
Bond.
I expected, because what I was expecting when you said Pierce Brosnan was the beginning of GoldenEye, where him and Sean Bean team up in that facility.
Yeah, that is a
That's
good
an
film.
excellent, where it starts with
Yeah,
him bungee jumping over that dam, and then he enters the complex. That is
yeah.
quintessential James Bond. That's
Well,
brilliant.
if you're going to go with that one, you'd have to go with the tank scene from GoldenEye as well, when he
The
chases
tank scene I
after.
don't think is as iconic as the opening of that movie.
The opening of the movie is more iconic, but the tank scene is definitely iconic as well in itself.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go with the tank scene, you could go with a million others. One scene I love as well is I love the free run-in scene in Casino Royale, where he's chasing after that
Yes,
guy through the building sites and up a crane and here, there,
that's
and
the opening,
everywhere.
isn't it? The
Yeah,
opening of GoldenEye. Yeah, sorry,
Casino Royale. Yeah,
GoldenEye, Casino
that's
Royale. Yeah,
excellent. And
that
then
is
you've
also very
got
good.
classic scenes like the old Roger Moore where he's skiing down the hill and he jumps off and the Union Jack parachute unfurls, and
Yeah, you're right. That is quite good as well.
because that's a sort of quintessential Bond. And then even just snapshot lines, you've got the "Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die."
Yeah, you've got all those ones as well. The one that always cracks me up is the Roger Moore one actually,
Yeah.
where when he meet where is it? He goes into that compound where the Asian man is kind of the rich guy, and he's got a third nipple on, a fake third nipple,
Well,
and there's a
Scaramanga
girl
from
swimming.
Man with
Yeah,
the Golden Gun.
that's the one. And the girl's in the pool.
But that's Christopher Lee. He's not Asian. Nick Nack was the short guy who was like his apprentice.
Yeah, apparently he committed suicide.
Oh, don't bring that up. That's
Well, no,
awful.
it's sad. It's very sad. But yeah, apparently he had issues with alcoholism. I think, if
Oh,
I
that's a
remember
shame.
correctly. Yeah,
That
because
is a real shame.
he played his character very well.
Yeah, I mean, that was. See, Man with the Golden Gun was interesting because you had a great Bond villain with Christopher Lee, and the whole you really felt he was a real threat because he used to just use one shot and he would take people out and he'd be in that complex and he would get people. So you
Yeah.
really saw him as a threat. But Nick Nack was a bit of a joke. Britt Eklund, whilst being incredibly beautiful, was one of the most bland, generic, blonde,
Yes. Yeah.
stupid Bond girls. It was
Yeah, I
awful, like
agree.
really
It was
badly
awful.
written for her.
Yeah, yeah. Compared to if you
Very
compare
of
it
the time.
to Pussy Galore from Goldfinger, I mean, she was
Yeah.
a quintessential Bond girl,
And
and she did
there
that
was
very well.
something really like she was strong in her own right, which was actually quite a thing for the time.
What a strong woman!
Yeah,
But it went well. I think it went down well. I think people enjoyed it
it
for
did.
the time.
But it's one of those, I think with the Bonds and you talk about favorite moments, you'd have to just pick a favorite moment for each Bond because they all have their own
Yeah, yeah.
phase
I
in their own
guess.
right.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So, who do you think wins this?
Oh,
I think this is gonna
yes.
be a tough one.
Well, they're both very strong, aren't they? I
Yeah,
think neither of them is a loser. I think we'll say that from the start. They're
but like
both
I said, the
great
only thing you can
franchises.
say is that the Bourne franchise has a better sort of scripted storyline. You know where you stand with this.
Yes,
And
well,
also, you
Bourne
can't watch
follows
one without
through,
watching the others. Yeah, it follows through. You can't watch one
whereas the
without the
Bonds
others.
one you can sort of dip into here and there.
Yeah, yeah. You
And
don't have to
it
be as invested.
reinvented itself as well.
Who did? Bond?
Bond, yeah.
Yeah,
Because when
yeah,
it came
yeah.
back with Daniel Craig, it was a completely different beast. And then even Timothy Dalton reinvented it from Roger Moore.
And you really love Timothy, don't you? You really got a
I
crush
think
going on him.
it's not so much that. I think the Dalton years go underappreciated.
I will give you that. It is underappreciated. Um, but then he should have stuck out for more than two films if he wanted to be appreciated. So
Well, that's the it wasn't so much his fault. There was big studio issues, so there was a big gap after License to Kill
hmm.
before it came time to do another Bond movie because Dalton wanted to do more, but the
Yeah.
studio had financial issues and there was all sorts of problems came up.
It just took a
And
while.
then, yeah, it took something like 8 years. It took a while, and then it came back, and he went, you know what, maybe my time's gone. I'll let someone
Yeah.
else do it. And that's when
Nice.
Pierce Brosnan came in.
Well, if that's the story, then I'm sort of glad he didn't come back because I really like Pierce Brosnan. I don't think GoldenEye would have been the same.
I think it would have been more serious if Timothy Dalton had done it.
I don't think GoldenEye was that jokey. It was a good mix between serious and jokey.
Well, that's what you look for. Pierce Brosnan sort of declined as it went on. Like the movies got weaker and weaker and weaker as he
But
went
you can
on.
say that about all of them, surely.
Well, Daniel Craig has been a bit up and down.
Yeah, but I would say
And
overall, from his
then,
high of Casino Royale, I think the rest of them are all not as good.
well, Sean Connery went up and down as well.
Yeah. Oh, talking of Sean Connery, I just realised what my other favourite scene is.
God.
Again, Goldfinger at the poolside, and this is really sexist. He's with this young lady, and then Felix comes along, and he pats the young lady on the bum and goes, "Off you go, man talk."
That's bad, isn't it?
It makes me laugh every time.
You're just exposing yourself here.
But you gotta watch it in, for that time. That was acceptable, and it is hilarious. I mean, obviously they wouldn't get away with doing
I
that
think
now.
that's the thing is when you watch the old Bond movies again, like I watched From Russia with Love again only about a
Some of
week
the
ago.
scenes are cringy. It's
And
too
there's a
cringy.
bit where they get these, gypsy girls out and get them to fight, and it's like,
Oh
oh,
yes, that is a cringy scene. That is a cringy. Yeah,
it's
no,
like, oh,
I
that does
agree.
not translate well now.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the things they say and some of the fight scenes haven't aged well at all.
No. And it
Um,
was, we have to remember that it's 60 years ago. It's a
oh
long time
yeah,
ago.
no, it's for the day. That's what it was. There's a really like a terribly racist bit in one of the films. I can't remember which film it was, but they're in a carnival or something.
A
And
carnival.
yeah. And
Hmm.
in a cage, there's this black lady, and it's just the
Really?
worst. Yeah, and I saw it recently, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh, this is really bad,
I'm trying to
like
think of a
really
Bond
bad."
with a carnival.
Oh, which one? I can't
Because
remember
I
which one it was.
remember Octopussy had like a traveling
Yeah,
circus.
yeah, but that wasn't quite the same thing.
Because that was in
Um,
India. There was a lot of racist Indian jokes in
there
that.
was a lot of racist Indian jokes with that. Yeah, um, it
Um,
was very stereotypical.
was it maybe Diamonds Are Forever?
Possibly, yeah,
Because that
yeah.
was a
It's
weak
a really
movie.
short. It's a really short scene, but when I saw it, I was like, "This is god awful."
Yeah. And then obviously there was criticism of Sean Connery they called it yellowface, where he gets the makeover to be Japanese.
Oh, you know what? That's probably the worst scene of the whole lot.
And it's
I
basically,
remember
they
that.
basically just gave him thicker eyebrows and longer eyelashes.
That's all they did. Yeah, it was the worst cover I've ever seen, and racist at
Really
the same
bad.
time.
It's
The
like, it
whole
was
thing was just
so
bad.
unnecessary as well.
I know, right? It didn't need to be like that. Why pretend to be Japanese? I don't get it.
Uh,
But yeah. Anyway, who wins?
it's very difficult to compare.
No,
Because
you
they're,
can because they're both action movies with a main
yeah.
character
But I mean, they're
working for the
both
government,
great in their own right. Well, one's running away from the government.
and one's running with it.
Yeah. Um,
Same sort of thing.
I'd say the only thing I can find to maybe judge it on is Bond has the longevity.
I was going to say anything. It's got the history.
Mm.
Because where
And
would
it's got a
Bourne
greater
be?
depth.
Where would Bourne be after all these years?
And I
Are they
think
going to bring it
Bourne,
back,
I don't
or is he
think,
done?
I don't think they could reboot it, but I don't think they could continue it without Matt Damon at this point.
Well, no, but then James Bond has done the same thing. They changed the actor, so they could do that with Bourne.
Yeah.
It could be
And
Bourne's son. It could be his cousin. I don't know.
they could. I mean, I just think that Bond maybe has a bit more of the staying power, and I think maybe Bond was better at reinventing itself than Bourne was.
Yeah, and I think it is a more fun film. I think
I
it's
think if they
less
could have
serious.
managed to squeeze out 2 or 3 high quality Bourne movies with Jeremy Renner, then
Yeah,
you'd be
they
able to
could.
say, well,
Yeah,
here we go.
but I
And
liked
then
this.
Bourne
I
would
like.
probably edge it at that point if that was the case.
I agree with you. Yeah, but
I
I liked
think,
Renner's
yeah,
rendition.
I think Bourne lacks 2 or 3 more top quality movies to really overtake it.
Yeah, and to show that it's adaptable.
Yeah. And I think when they brought Matt Damon back as Bourne, people got really excited. They did. But it's not the same as the excitement you get for when a Bond movie comes out.
No, not at all.
And I think that's where Bond maybe wins it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah. Also, Bourne is a bit too serious at times.
It's funny, if we had this
glum look.
debate in 2004, 2005, we'd possibly give it to Bourne. But Bond came back and did what Bourne had done and then said, we can do it too. And it worked.
Yeah.
And that's where Bond went, yeah, you know what? I am the big daddy here. Out of the two.
I agree. So Bond wins.
Yeah. So in terms of franchises...
Yeah, for Pierce Brosnan.
Because I think it would have been easy to turn it over to public opinion like we did with Marvel and Star Wars. But we can't do that every time. We can't do that every time.
We can't.
And I think we can back up giving it to Bond.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Our reasons are solid.
Yeah, solid win.
It just makes me want to go back and watch them all again.
All of the Bonds?
Or at least all the Bournes.
Oh yeah. You know what? I think I've got one of the Bourne DVDs lying around somewhere.
I've got the original trilogy on box set. And then I know that the 5th one is on Netflix. Or it was. I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, I might have to look that up. Might be my
But I think it is.
Evening viewing.
I remember being slightly disappointed with it though. Like I just remember because I watched it in the cinema and I just remember wishing there was just that little bit more that was in the original 3.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed it for what it was.
But I enjoyed it more on second viewing. When I saw it again when it came out on Netflix, I enjoyed it more on second viewing. Yeah.
It was for.
Well, I could enjoy it for what it was. I think I'd hyped it up in my mind before I saw it. Because obviously it was the return of Matt Damon and the original trilogy was so solid and so good. Oh, one of the best Bourne scenes, now that we're talking about it, the train station in London, where he's trying to save that journalist's life.
Through the gaps, the gap of the advertisement. And that is good.
That was excellent. That was really good.
No, I agree with you. Good scene. Right. I think that wraps it up.
I enjoyed that. Happy days with that.
I feel like getting a tuxedo now.
I'm surprised you don't already.
I've never really needed one. I think I hired one for prom, but that's about it.
I wore a kilt to mine.
Oh, please tell me you have a picture of this.
I do. I must have shown you a picture at some point.
Right. WhatsApp it to me. I've not seen this. I've got the other picture of you.
You know what? It's on my Facebook. It's on my Facebook. You can see it easy.
Excellent. So next time when we come to the podcast, I will tell you a review of my colleague in
a kilt. Lovely.
All right, guys.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our little dip into memory lane as much as we did.
Oh, I enjoyed it massively.
Yeah. Right, and feel free to suggest more franchises to head off against each other.
Yes, and please feel free to subscribe.
Yep, and please remember to like, subscribe, all of those things that we know you like to do anyway.
Yep.
And we'll see you all soon.
Ciao.
Right, goodbye.